Hello, everybody. This is Jason from the Music Store. We're back at you with another episode. I'm here with my partner in crime, Mr. Jeremy Renner. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
We kind of got a little bit crazy with our schedule last week because we had Memorial Day here in the States, and that's where we honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. We honor them with a holiday, and it also happens to correspond to the
unofficial start
of summer, but it is the official start of Jeremy's crazy gigging schedule.
Oh yeah, I have a gig tonight.
Yeah, gig tonight, and you just got off the road, so we're doing like a dual remote session because we are like ships sailing past each other in the night. Jeremy was just doing an interesting gig, actually. This is an interesting thing to tell everybody about.
So I just had a gig at a performing arts center called the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center in Chester, New York. It's a very beautiful theater, and they have quite a few different kinds of acts that you can see. And last night, I just did a gig with the 2023, I'm not sure if I'm saying the entire title of this thing correctly, but the 2023 Graceland Elvis Tribute Artist of the Year award winner.
Thank you very much.
He is like the top Elvis tribute artist basically in the country, and he won this competition that gets held at Graceland. And there are the judges involve some people that have played with Elvis in years past, people who are involved in management, people who are involved in the historical preservation of Graceland itself. So it's kind of a big to-do. And the gentleman's name, and hopefully we get him on the program at some point, is Victor Trevino, and he is quite the performer.
Now, how old is he? Because you think Elvis, you think he'd be like 50 or 60 years old. Is he a younger guy or is he?
No. I mean, I actually don't know how old he is, but he's definitely a young man. I would have to guess that he is in his 30s.
I was recently made aware that of the whole Elvis competition circuit and just event award. So there's these like, and you probably know more than I, but it's like a competition where is it a convention? It's definitely a competition where they show up and they do everything from the outfits to the performance and look-alike, and it's really it's like a big deal.
I don't know how many various competitions there are for Elvis tribute artists, like any kind of contest. I'm sure there's several, but the way it was described to me from Victor was actually there are several preliminary rounds that exist where all these contestants kind of get whittled down to the cream of the crop that eventually go and perform at Graceland. So that is the deal there. So maybe some of these that you heard of, whose son won something, was probably possibly one of those preliminary rounds. But that's how they determine the winner of this one. So I mean, and there's people from all over the world who participate in the one that with the culmination being the performance in Graceland. I've been a huge Elvis fan for a very long time. Elvis Presley and the tune All Shook Up, I think it's the first song I can remember hearing and wanting to hear all the time as a child. At like 3 years old, All Shook Up was like my introduction to it. And throughout the years, my fandom was known to my whole family, and then I had an aunt who was an avid catalog shopper. So I got a huge Elvis memorabilia collection from various birthdays and Christmases of her catalog shopping. And I got I didn't have a coffee table of my own, but I got a coffee table book. And it made mention of some of these different competitions. Believe it or not, the Asian community loves Elvis. A lot of Japanese compete inside a lot of the different competitions where Elvis tribute artists go up against each other. A lot of Korean and a lot of Filipino as well. And they pick, and you're right, they pick different. Some go, I only do 70s Elvis jumpsuit Las Vegas stuff. Some people are only like they're dressed up in the black leather doing the 68 special stuff. And then they go back even further. Some people are only doing the 50s material. So it's pretty cool. It's very vast. I did not know how vast it was.
Does anybody do the one where like Elvis just totally lost it on stage and was like falling over drunk?
You are strung out. Oh, by God, I'll tell you something, friend. I have never been strung out in my life, except on music.
A big part in learning of all this from the performer who I just performed with, Victor, the branding of Elvis is something that's really, really big. And I think some of the things that definitely get considered by the judges, what it appears to me, is how you are portraying Elvis, how true you are being to his character, but also how are you best representing, because basically it's a brand, it's a brand, and Graceland wants to make sure that you're doing the brand justice. So I think they definitely don't want anybody who's going out there that is, I guess, maybe too schmaltzy or too shticky, or as Paul McCartney would say, acky-dacky. They definitely want to have,
right.
They want somebody who's going to really do the name proud, and also somebody who says, hey, look, listen, there is only one Elvis Presley. My name is, and you say your name, and there's a reason why he's the only one, and we're just paying tribute to this artist. And to not ham it up too much, but definitely study the moves that Elvis did on stage and make it be an enjoyable performance that people can, if you've never seen Elvis, you can be like, oh, that's what I saw when I looked up clips of him. And if you are lucky enough to be somebody who's was a participant at a concert of Elvis's, you can be like, that's the guy I remember. So no, I don't think they're going to do any of the, although I do know a lot of stuff was going on during the 70s jumpsuit Vegas stuff. None of that makes its way into the actual performance.
So they're whitewashing the history of Elvis.
You know what? I at this point, I think there are so many things of so many artists that could be talked about. And I think the best thing that you can remember from any artist is going to be the music. And it's basically the legacy of Elvis, and how much he loved to perform is the legacy that Graceland and the estate of Elvis is looking to preserve in picking a winner for this competition. It's somebody who's going to preserve the legacy of Elvis's amazing performances, because he gave it all. No matter how much the world was piling on to him, and you could definitely see that in his later years, he gave it all to his fans, and that's represented with the winner that they choose, someone who's just going to really give somebody a good show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You got to appreciate that. Now, is it a sort of like a WWF versus WWE kind of, what do you call it, leagues of Elvis competition, or is there just one? I mean, if he went to Graceland and did the finals there, I guess you would think that there maybe only be one that was sanctioned.
That's probably accurate. I don't know for certain, but that's probably accurate. I would imagine. I mean, if Graceland's getting behind it, it's like, well, that's the one. If you're going to be an Elvis tribute artist and you're looking for the leg up and the thing that's going to qualify your work as a tribute artist, it would be to absolutely be part of the competition that gets held at Graceland.
Now, it's interesting. Last night I was staying up watching a little TV, and I watched the end of Rising Sun, a 90s movie from, I think, a Michael Crichton book with Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes.
It's a homicide. A detective, an expert in ancient wisdom.
Every aspect of your appearance and behavior will reflect on you and on me as your senpai. That wouldn't happen to be anything like Mastodon, would it? Oh, wow.
It's a story about like a murder that happens at a Japanese company in Los Angeles. There's some scenes where there's like the Yakuza or the Japanese...
The gang?
The gangs, yeah. And,
Yeah.
It's funny. I noticed this last night, but it didn't really register, or I didn't make a connection until you just were talking about Elvis being popular in Asia. There's a scene where they're like basically all hunt down like the bad guy and throw him off the roof of a building, not to give the movie away.
You've had a lot of time to watch it.
Well, I mean, it was from the 90s, right? So you should have got to it by now.
Yeah.
You had time. It's still a great movie. I watch it every time. It was made in the 90s, takes place in the 90s. The guys, the Japanese gangsters they're very Elvis-y. They've got the bouffant. Is that the word? Is it bouffant hair? No, that's for the women. What do you call it?
The pompadour.
Pompadour, yeah. So they got their hairs like that, and they're kind of skinny tied, and they're driving like a '57 Chevy. And I'm watching the movie, and this just happened last night. And I was like, these guys are kind of like 50's out. Like, what's that all about? And I didn't give it really much thought. So maybe you might know more about it than I do.
I mean, I just know that he's really, I mean, 1950s American culture, for some reason, is really appealing to especially the Japanese culture. Somebody that we have here in America who is just a treasure of a musician, I know that you know this, is Brian Setzer. And for all those who don't know Brian Setzer, he's from the band called the Stray Cats. They had the song Rock This Town and Stray Cats Strut. And those are, I think, probably two of their biggest tunes. And Rumble in Brighton. You know, they had that rockabilly sort of revival that happened in the 80s. Then his career kind of took a pause for a second, and then he rejuvenated himself with the Brian Setzer Orchestra with tunes like, I think their big cover was Jump, Jive, and Wail. Everybody remembers that one from the 90s. And he brought about a swing revival. He is massively popular in Japan because it's all that 1950s, some Gershwin-style swing, some of that Louis Prima type stuff, but then also American rockabilly and American sort of country, and they love it. The Greasers, the Cars, the Pompadours, the dancing, and he's been big in Japan for quite some time. I mean, ever since the 90s, he was. So yeah, the Japanese just eat it up, and it's a good thing too because it keeps that kind of music going.
There's a really great, I think it's a Tom Waits song called "Big in Japan." I don't know if you've ever heard that. That's a great song. Oh, it's great.
And I like Tom Waits too, but I don't know the entire body of work.
Yeah, and it's funny too, also because you think about like my wife will watch the Kill Bill movies like on auto repeat all the time. I've never seen one person except maybe Pretty Woman. She's watched that movie so many times.
That's a big switch right there. I love Pretty Woman and I like Kill Bill.
Yeah, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That's what it is. But even in those scenes there, like there's like one where Uma Thurman goes to like some Japanese tea house or something, and then she's like, it's gore fest galore. She like chops up like 75 guys, but they're all sporting that same thing, like that kind of like 50s. It's one of those things like once you see it once, you can't ever unsee it. I feel like now I'll always be looking for that.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you buy a car and all of a sudden you realize everybody has your car around you.
Yeah, like white and black cars. Like whatever happened to like cool colored cars, or like the like when I was a kid, we had wood paneling on the side of our station wagon. They don't make that anymore.
So I did know a long time ago, an interesting tie-in for those who probably don't know. There is a massive market for at least for the last 25 years. There's been a crazy market for vintage instruments, and specifically vintage instruments from America. And one of the biggest buyers of vintage instruments, and mainly, you know, we're talking guitars and basses, is the Japanese market. Love 1950s Americana and anything that goes along with it. So whether it be a piece of American history from a particular company that made amplifiers or a particular company that made guitars, I remember hearing throughout all of the vintage circles that Japan was just one of the biggest buyers of these instruments. So there's just something about the 1950s American culture that they have latched onto, especially with music and cars, for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, 오래가 전이다. Okay,
So we got our good friend Arthi sent me a few little interesting items that were happening. Actually, speaking of guitars, I'll pull this one up. I was going to kind of go in order, but this is cooler because you're talking about like, you know, American guitars in particular. Did you know that Kurt Cobain's guitar just sold at auction? Did you hear about this?
No.
You want to guess what the price was that it went for?
Well, I know Eric Clapton has Christie's or has donated guitars to Christie's auction, and I know a couple things have sold through that before for some pretty astronomical prices. So I'll take a guess at, and I know what some of those sold for, so I'll take a guess at like $500,000, somewhere around there.
That's really close. It was $600,000.
Okay.
Now, it was for a black She said this is a black Fender Stratocaster, which isn't playable since it was smashed and then put back together. I always seem to remember him playing like a white or a cream Strat. Am I not remembering that correctly?
I don't even remember him playing a Stratocaster. He's actually famous for a different. I think he was playing he played a funky guitar, I think called like a Cyclone, and then there was like a Jag.
Yeah, I was going to say
the Jag Stang or a Jaguar or something like that. But they've reissued a few over the years. Fender marketing has, I think the Fender Cyclone was one that he might have played, and a Fender Jag Stang was another one. I don't know. I'm sure he's pictured somewhere playing a Strat, but I didn't know he had one.
Did you say a Jag Stain?
A Jag Stang. Stang.
Jag Stang.
Yeah.
That sounds like, oh man, I got me a freaking Jag Stang. I'm busted. That doesn't sound like a good thing to get a Jag Stang.
No, it doesn't.
Well, in related news, Foo Fighters, they got themselves a new drummer. Josh Freese is playing.
Oh, yeah. What band was he from?
You should know. Besides Elvis, he played in your favorite band.
Played in my favorite band. Oh, was it Weezer?
Yeah, it says Weezer.
Yeah,
he played with 9 Inch. Did he?
Well, he stepped in I remember him stepping in for a period of time. It's funny, Pat Wilson, the actual drummer of Weezer, throughout like the later career of Weezer, apparently he plays guitar in his own band, and he's like really into like some 80s kind of like shred. So he gets up on stage with Weezer and just plays guitar for like several songs. And yeah, they were bringing in Josh Freese to play drums while he was out there rocking out on the guitar. Yeah,
I'm so jealous. That'd be like my dream gig.
So yeah, he was definitely a multi-instrumentalist. Well, that's great because Josh is a monster. He's a great drummer and definitely perfect for the Foo Fighters. That's good news.
Yeah, and Taylor Hawkins' son, I think I just saw sat in on a Tuners 2 recently when they just came back out again. But so that's good to know. They're back up and running with a good player, so that's cool.
Yeah.
On the topic of performers and players that had passed away, unfortunately, we lost Mr. Harry Belafonte.
Oh.
He lived to be 96.
I did not know that. Wow.
Born in Harlem, 1927. I love that. Day-o, day-o. Daylight come and
yeah,
wanna go. I love that song. That song comes on, I go sing all the time with it.
I just rewatched Beetlejuice with my daughter the other day.
With Sonora. It's not. The song isn't called Sonora, is it? It's the Shake Sonora song. You're talking about that scene where she's
at the end of the movie.
Oh, Jump the Line. At the end of the movie, it's like the happy party scene.
Yep.
Yeah, that movie throws me off. I appreciate Danny Elfman, and I appreciate what's his name? Not Danny Elfman's the composer, whose music is great.
Oh, yeah, Tim Burton. Right?
Tim Burton. But speaking of Danny Elfman, Dead Man's Party, great song. First heard that in the Back to School Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Good teacher. He really seems to care. About what, I have no idea.
I don't know if you know that one.
I have.
Yeah, so Tim Burton, yeah. But those movies always, I don't know, just creep me out. Like, I always, especially by the end of Beetlejuice, I definitely felt a little off.
It's macabre, for sure.
But so Harry Belafonte's Calypso, speaking of the 1950s, actually, 1959, was the first album by a single artist to sell more than 1 million copies.
Wow.
And he was the most highly paid black performer. Now, this says in history. I have that hard to believe if you include Michael Jackson in that.
Yeah, I would say for the time. I mean, that's crazy, though, even more so than...
Elvis,
from the Rat Pack? Sammy Davis Jr. That's the name I was trying to think of.
Sammy Davis Jr. But Sammy Davis, well, first of all, I don't know if most people don't know this. Sammy Davis Jr. was an amazing singer, dancer, and he was one heck of a drummer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. I've seen clips of him getting behind the kit, like tearing it up.
It's for real.
Yeah.
He's got it all. The man had it all. So we lost him. Speaking of somebody who's still with us, not that I'm saying he should be dead, but Paul Simon is 81, and he just released I'm going to use the word album loosely. I'm air quoting album, but it's a song, technically. It's a 30-minute long song called 7 Psalms. I listened to it. It's interesting. There's a theme about God that runs through the whole thing, and there's and when you watch the title go by on your music app, it just keeps scrolling and scrolling because each one of the 7 movements within this 130-minute piece of music are in the title. So the title is like a paragraph long.
Oh, wow.
So it just... Yeah, so when you play it on your thing, you're like, what the hell is my app doing? It's like freaking out. All these things keep flying by, but that's because the title is so big. And I listened to it, and I was like, man, I haven't ever really done a review of a record, been like, I'm going to listen to something and give it like a real review. I'm usually like, meh, it's good. It's great. Whatever. This one was very different from the Paul Simon that we know. He does have a part where just when you're like ready, like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this, Edie Brickell comes in and does some harmonies with him, which is pretty kosher. So that was interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, check it out. Hey, look, I'd like to be 81 and still putting out records. Wouldn't that be cool?
I remember I think how old was he? Was he 72 or 75? And he came out with a record. So it was a few years ago. It was all original music. And people were kind of going, I wonder if we're going to still be interested in what this 75-year-old man has to say. And it was a good record. Yeah, he's one of those guys. I put him in the same category as Elvis Costello, who they're great storytellers. They have such great observations about situations in life, and they can just weave a story and put it into a song like that. I snap my fingers for all those who couldn't hear. A little jealous of that ability too. It's a muscle. You got to work it. You work that muscle every day.
I can snap. I can snap 4 fingers at once. You want to hear it?
I was talking about the muscle of your brain being worked, but sure. Yeah,
you ready?
If anyone out there is listening, Jason does birthday parties.
Well, that was my rendition of the 1812 Overture.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I picked that up. I heard it.
In closing out, I got a feed. It was about, I guess there was a concert, a BBC One or something concert, and got the strangest feed on my phone. Have you ever heard of this band called Royal Blood? Royal Blood.
No.
It's like a drummer and guitar guy, and their earlier stuff I listened to sounds very white stripey,
okay,
with little Black Sabbath and a couple of direct Led Zeppelin ripoffs. So anyway, the story was like he got like upset at the concert that I guess people weren't clapping enough for him. So he was like, "Hey, you guys got to clap for us. Don't you like rock and roll?" And then I guess he like stormed off and like gave everybody the finger at the concert. So I was like, okay. I was like, all right, this guy, is he really such a wanker that he had to give everybody the finger? So let me look this up. So I saw the video, and it's one of those things where like, it's like when Jason yells at clouds. We have to have it every time. But I'm like, kids these days, like, do their feelings get hurt so much if people don't clap for them? And I'm thinking, man, like something's really punk was like, remember hearing a story where when the police came and did their first tour of the United States, some of the shows they did had like 3 people, but they still kicked butt, right? Did a crazy show. So, like, instead of complaining that people aren't clapping for you, whatever, just do a killer show and then leave them going, whoa, what the heck was that, right?
I mean, I don't want to say that this person hasn't paid their dues. I will never. I'm not accusing them of that. But I mean, if you grow up playing music, you're bound to do a show or a cover band gig or something at some point in time where you kind of play to like an empty room. Or you play a gig where you're kind of just wallpaper. Your skin kind of, your skin toughens up a little bit to situations like that. I mean, I get it. It's their original material, so you're hoping people dig it. It's the respectful thing to do to clap, but at least they paid the money to come see you. Jeez.
But anyway, it got me thinking about like times that performers like had freakouts on stage where they berated the audience. So I kind of looked it up. I've got some fun ones for you. And in the category of you brought this on yourself, Elton John got really upset and stormed off the stage after he invited a bunch of people to gather around him while he played the piano. And one fan wouldn't stop touching him and trying to give him the high five. But it's like, you invited them on stage. You shouldn't do that. You're Elton John. You don't think nobody's going to touch you? I don't know. I think he brought that one on himself.
Yeah. I saw Bush once, and Gavin Rossdale went out into the crowd. It's like, people are going to grab your shirt and your hair, man. But, he's ready for it.
Back in the category of, like, you don't love me enough, so I'm going to throw a hissy fit. I guess Marilyn Manson pulled that one once. people weren't showing him enough adoration, according to this article. Guy in Smash Mouth jumped out in the audience, I think started getting a fist fight with a guy. Oh, no, this one is just freaking crazy. Like, there's no dating on this, but like apparently Madonna was doing a concert in Chile, and it says when she was 60, so this couldn't have been that long ago. But yeah, she wanted to stop the show because like people were smoking, and I don't blame her on that one. I'd be like, dude, I'm sitting up here singing and like jumping around and doing the acrobats that she does, you know, even at her age. There's another one where Travis Scott, the rapper, in 2017 got mad because I guess he tried to let somebody in the audience like use the microphone to like sing along, and the security guard didn't like it and tried to grab the mic or whatever, and he didn't like that, and so he starts yelling at the security guard. But what's interesting is he's got auto-tune on the mic. So he's just like, yo, bro, you can't, don't ever grab the mic out of my hand. It's just like you can hear the auto-tune is just hunting everywhere while he's berating this security guard.
Hey, stop.
It's just hysterical. Okay, I saved the best for last. Kanye West, right? Shocker. So he was doing his show. And he wanted everybody in the audience to get up on their feet, right? Well, it's cool. Like, everybody up on your feet, whatever, dance. And like, these two people didn't get up on their feet. He's like getting mad.
This is the longest I've had to wait to do the song. It's unbelievable.
And, basically say like, I can't believe I have to wait this long for you to get on your feet, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so it turns out they're in wheelchairs.
Now, if he is in a wheelchair, then it's fine. And is he in a wheelchair there? Only if he's in a wheelchair. You say it's cool as a wheelchair?
Yeah, I
so
figured
basically,
this, this where you're going with that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what if they had butt cancer, or what if they had like a blown knee? I mean, bad enough they're in wheelchairs, and good luck to them for going to the show and stuff. It's like getting berated because it's
like, I paid my money. I'm going to sit.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to look at just for that, I'm going to turn around and do like a cruise ship thing and just look at the back of the audience and show you the back of my head for that statement, you jerk.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, crazy stuff. We'll be back with hopefully some interviews next week. This is Jason.
This is Jeremy.
Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks to WBNJ for the show, and listen to us where all the podcasts are.